outsourcing. I'm going to focus on ethics and labor practices. So I'm going to go over the definition, how outsourcing is often violating human rights and labor rights, and I'm going to go through a few examples. The definition of outsourcing is a service from a third-party company, which is what I think other gentlemen said, and transfer of business to an external service provider. And I put a cute little picture, Santa Claus. And violation of human rights. Often the employment laws are not as strict in other foreign countries. They may or may not have them, but they're not as regulated as the U.S. And obviously the U.S. has problems as is, so you can just imagine how hard it is for them. Things that often happen are sexual harassment, worker safety problems, and age discrimination. And IBM in India actually had a problem with age discrimination. In their website for India, they actually had posted that you couldn't apply unless you were under 27 years old. Which obviously that's kind of, this would not fly here in America. So often other things that, how they get away with it, companies have subcontractors keep the wages really low so they can attract investors. And then corporations can claim that they're paying minimum wage even though it might be under the poverty line. This gives them someone else to blame if something goes bad. An example of this is Nike CEO, founder Philip Knight. He was saying that he didn't know it was happening, and obviously, you have to have some idea. You would visit the place you're getting your things manufactured at. So a few examples are sweatshops. This is the most common problem with outsourcing. Often there is a lot of physical, mental, or sexual abuse happening. They have long hours, low wages, and unsanitary conditions. And an example is from Mexico. Mexico and Latin America and China are the biggest places where sweatshops are happening right now. Maquiladoras are assembly plants in Mexico. They are 54% of Mexico's export industry. In 1994, it's not what I was saying. Sorry, excuse me.
They went forward one more.
Oh. Okay. So it was supposed to increase foreign investors, but it's actually affecting them, and there's a lot of corruption, so Mexico isn't actually getting the money that they're supposed to be. The free trade agreement between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico is actually making it harder for them, for the sweatshops happening, because you're paying less taxes to get them shipped over, so they're using Mexico a lot for these reasons. Okay, and one example, the biggest one is Ciudad Juarez. I'm sure you all heard of this. There's 3,000 maquiladoras, which is a lot in a very small area. They get paid 50 cents an hour for a lot of times 10 hours a day and 6 days a week. That's more than 70 hours per week. And 50 cents an hour, I don't know, it's kind of not even, like a piece of candy. The skilled workers get paid $1 to $2 per hour, and they actually have air conditioning, which is like a big deal. Biggest concentration of maquiladoras is in Ciudad Juarez, and the crime and violence is obviously affected by this. There have been 7 deaths per day in the last 12 months, which was 2009. In China also, we had, there was a problem about Liu Pan was a victim of these violation of regulations. He was actually hired at 15 years old, which is illegal in China. And he died at 17, and they're claiming that he was older, and obviously if you look at the picture, he looks like he's maybe 10 or something. And he died last year, June 2009. There was a lot of other violations that they found in the same factory where he died. He was actually crushed by the machinery. And this was a place where Disney got a lot of its paper products, such as like stationary and all of that, and they claimed that they didn't know, and it was horrible and unacceptable that this was happening, and they stopped actually producing with them. But I mean, they didn't want to take responsibility, which is one of the biggest problems that they're having. Also, other things they found in these countries was cheating the labor. They weren't paying them on time, or they weren't paying them at all. They're making them work a lot of hours. Obviously, they're hiring people underage, and just a lot of issues. The economy is really bad there, and here in the United States, so they're trying to produce a lot of things for low wages so they can keep up. So I went through outsourcing as a transfer of business function to external service provider. The problems that outsourcing causes in workers and human rights violations, and how Latin America and Asia are the biggest problems with sweatshops and outsourcing. And these are the cool little places I got my information from.